Welcome to the Select Board meeting, October 29th, 2024. Mr. Canty, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight's meeting of the Plymouth Select Board is taking place in a hybrid format. Members of the public will be joining us in person, and members of the public and presenters may be joining us virtually over the Zoom webinar platform. The login information for the Zoom webinar platform is included on the agenda that is posted on the town website. Members that join us may participate in public comment if they choose to do so, or may just observe the meeting. May also observe the meeting by watching it on television on Comcast Channel 9 or Verizon Channel 47 or at the Local Scenes YouTube channel. Members of the public are also reminded that if they wish to make a recording, video or audio recording of an open session, they may do so after notifying the chair, subject to reasonable restrictions to facilitate the procedures of the meeting and the accountability of the meeting. We are not currently aware of any recordings outside of the local scene recording us at this time. Mr. Chair, if there are no other business items, I would read the executive session language at this time.
Please.
The Select Board will hold an executive session pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Clause 6, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property if the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body. This would be in relation to 277 Taylor Avenue and St. Charles Avenue, a location colloquially known as the Full Sail. The board will also be, while in executive session, reviewing and voting to approve executive session minutes from October 8th and October 22nd of this year. I would make a motion that we enter into executive session for those two purposes to return at approximately 6 p.m.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Canty, second by Mr. Mahoney. Discussion? Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Canty?
Yes.
Mr. Blutzer?
Yes.
Mr. Golden?
Yes.
And myself, yes, and the board will be returning approximately at 6. Thank you. Join the board in the pledge to our flag.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm going to move right on to licenses. And administrative notes, unless the board chooses otherwise.
If none of my colleagues have any questions or comments on the licenses or administrative notes, Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to approve all of the licenses.
Second.
And the 4 administrative notes as a group.
I'll still second.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Canty, second by Mr. Golden. Discussion? Seeing none. Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Canty?
Yes.
Mr. Blitzer?
Yes,
Mr. Golden?
Yes.
And myself, yes, unanimous. Thank you.
okay, thank you for coming.
First thing on the,
Yep, I'll talk to you.
first thing on the agenda tonight is a Roads Advisory Committee appointment. It's for a 2-year term. And we have, I believe, one applicant, John O'Keefe. Hi, John, would you like to come up and say something? Just please identify yourself for the record, even though I'm helping you here, and make sure the green light's on.
Green light's on.
Okay.
So my name's John O'Keefe, 5 Roger Street in Plymouth, down off of Bourne Road, down by the South Plymouth Fire Station. I'm a longtime Plymouth resident. I've lived in Plymouth since 1987. Married, 3 adult kids. All of my kids went to school in Plymouth. I'm retired Air Force, 17 years active duty in the Air Force, 24 years in the National Guard. I always thought after I retired, a good way to give back to the town of Plymouth would be to serve on a committee. I've actually been working a little bit with the committee to try to get some road improvements, and I've seen how they operate. I've learned a lot about what they do with accepted roads, unaccepted roads, snow plowing. So I've gained a little bit of experience with the board, just going to the meetings for about the past 18 months. So it seems like a good fit with my experience in the military and having attended some of these meetings. I saw they had a vacancy, and like I said, I'd throw my name in the hat to volunteer to help serve the town of Plymouth and do some good things with the Road Advisory Committee.
Mr. Blitzer, then Mr. Golden.
I actually have a comment about Mr. O'Keefe. He's been coming to our meetings. I'm on the Roads Advisory. I'm the Select Board member. And he's very knowledgeable, he's very patient, and he's a gentleman at the meetings. And he's attended quite a few meetings. In fact, I think we asked you to come here and do this, I believe.
yes.
No, I know. And so you'll be a great addition. And you've heard us talking about trying to figure out how we can accept more roads. And our town manager, Mr. Brindisi, is working on that with DPW Director to figure out how we can do that. So it's a work in progress, and so you'll be a great addition. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Golden.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. O'Keefe, thank you for being here tonight. If you could identify one area of town where the Roads Advisory Committee needs to focus their work on, what would it be and why?
I would say, and I'm not sure how this works because there's a state road, Route 3A down in Cedarville. It's really gotten pretty built up with the Ace Hardware that's down there. But I currently working part-time for M&M Transport, transporting boats, and there are some really rough areas. Like I said, part of that is state road, so I don't know how that plays out between the town and the state, but there's some work that needs to be done there, I would say down in Cedarville, along State Road, and I believe the Cedarville Advisory Committee was working on some kind of proposals for some traffic lights. Again, I don't know how that would work between Cedarville Advisory and the Roads Advisory Committee, but there's some rough areas down there in Cedarville. I would say Cedarville, and you know, I'm from that area more so than central Plymouth and northern Plymouth, so I see more of Cedarville and South Plymouth than I do the rest of the town. But, so I would say down in Cedarville.
Excellent. Thank you for your service as well.
Sure, yep.
Mr. Canty?
So having observed a number of their meetings, is there anything that you think the Roads Advisory Committee is doing that you think they should keep doing, or something that they're not doing that you'd like to see them do if you were to be appointed?
In the most recent meeting, I know there's some issues with getting roads accepted. And it seems like that process is kind of stalled. And I think part of that is due to employment issues with the DPW. Obviously, Roads Advisory Committee doesn't have a say in what DPW does with hiring, but it certainly is a backlog in getting roads from, you know, an unaccepted standpoint. There were two different groups that came to the last meeting, and there was really nothing the Roads Advisory Committee could do until that process moved forward with getting unaccepted roads that were probably built to spec, that would meet all the requirements, but because of a shortfall with the DPW, you know, getting that process moving forward. So I would say just working with, you know, the Select Board, DPW to see if there's any way to move that process forward, to get, you know, unaccepted roads as accepted, because from my understanding, once roads are accepted, that's additional funds for the town
Yeah.
to maintain the road. So if we're sitting where that process is stalled completely, I'd say, you know, the town is losing money.
Okay, thank you very much.
You bet.
Any other comments from the board? Don't write this down, but I think down in Cedarville area, it's planned on 2 roundabouts,
Oh,
at least for 3A.
sure.
And I think one of them is ready to be underway soon, and the second one, if the parcel goes in Cedarville, the foundation's gonna put the funding up, right? $2 million up, right? So that's, and I know they looked at lights, the state did, and I think the state said no. I believe, you know, it's been a while since
Yep,
I
yep, sure.
attended the meetings, but that's what's going on down there with that.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. Wish of the board?
Make the motion to accept.
I'll second the motion to appoint Mr. O'Keefe.
Motion, Mr. Blitzer, second, Mr. Canty. Discussion? Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Canty?
Yes.
Mr. Blitzer?
Yes.
Mr. Golden?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Congratulations and thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you, and thank the board for the time. Appreciate it.
Next up is No Place for Hate Committee appointment. One two-year term, 2 3-year terms, 1 1-year student term, Plymouth South High School, and we do have a student for that one. So how about we start with a student first? Zachary?
Hi, I'm a junior at Plymouth South High School, and I'm applying for the No Place for Hate Committee. Recently, I've been on a lot of councils for our school, working towards providing more inclusion for all of our students, and working with both the entirety of our school, other schools, and the town to make sure every student has their own voice. I think that being on this committee will allow me to both further my student council involvement and also allow more students to feel like they have a vote and a right to say something if they feel the need to.
Thank you. Any questions for Zachary? David?
No questions. I just want to say thanks for stepping up, Zachary.
Thank you.
Mr. Canty?
So you said you're a junior?
Yes, I'm a junior.
I don't envy you. I think one of the busiest years of my life was my junior year in high school. So you're confident that you'll be able to balance this with your academic and other
Yes.
extracurricular pursuits? Okay, because I know it's a very critical year in high school. So thank you for, again, as Mr. Golden said, for stepping up. You sound like you'll be a good addition to it. I just wanted to make sure it was something you could fit into your schedule.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Nope.
Okay, wish of the board.
Make a motion to appoint Mr. Hogg?
Yes.
To the No Place for Hate Committee to the one-year student term.
Second?
Motion by Mr. Canty, second by Mr. Golden. Discussion? Seeing none. Mr. Golden?
Yes.
Mr. Blitzer?
Yes.
Mr. Canty?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Congratulations,
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
and thank you. Megan? Nutzling? I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but
Hi, everyone. My name is Megan Nutzling. I'm an 8-year Plymouth resident. I live up in the Morton Park area with my wife, Misty. And I've had the opportunity to attend a few No Place for Hate meetings. And throughout my life, and especially through the past 10-ish years, I've been involved in some sort of diversity, equity, and inclusion, whether it's through work or within the community that I'm involved in. I've sat on a board through Starbucks Coffee Company, which is the company I work for, on their Women's Impact Network, where I supported community efforts. I've volunteered with Girls on the Run for 9 years as a head coach, supporting girls in Plymouth and other communities to teach young girls how to have a voice and to be stand-byers versus bystanders. Equality and inclusivity is something that's very important to me for my own personal beliefs, also to create a safe and supportive space for everyone, to make sure that people are living without fear of discrimination. I love being a part of meaningful change, and I see that in our No Place for Hate Committee through the meetings that I've sat through the events that we host and take part in. And through my experiences through work and within the communities I've been involved in, it's given me the experience and understanding of the challenges faced by marginalized groups. And I want to be that voice and that advocate for those that may not have a voice. And I know that I can do that through No Place for Hate and be that advocate for the town of Plymouth.
And I just want to ask you, which term do you prefer, the 2-year term or a 3-year term?
The 3-year term.
3-year term? Okay. Questions from the board?
I have
Mr. Blitzer?
Thank you very much for stepping up here, Megan, because this is a very important committee. In the town, do you see you have concerns with safety and support in this town? And if so, how can we either get more resources or make it more public, how folks can take advantage of these resources?
So, it's interesting. My first few years in Plymouth, so I can speak personally for myself. My first few years in Plymouth, I wasn't aware of the resources of No Place for Hate, of a lot of the committees and opportunities we have. And I'll be honest, my wife is actually the vice chair of Precinct 5. So that's really how I became aware of the opportunities that we have in Plymouth. A neighbor of mine introduced me to No Place for Hate, and that's kind of how my eyes opened, and I was aware of what is available and what we do have in our town. When I think about the experiences that I've had personally, so let me think about the Pride, right? Plymouth Pride.
Right.
Being at the Plymouth Pride event, when I know that there were police officers there, resources there, diversity, definitely felt like the town rallied and supported diversity and the citizens of Plymouth. So where I stand today and what I know is available and the resources that we have as a community, I'm confident in the town of Plymouth. When I was a new citizen to the town of Plymouth, I wasn't necessarily aware, not because they weren't available, but I don't necessarily know if maybe our community knows where to find the resources or the support that may be available to them,
Right.
if that makes sense.
Well, because the reason why I'm asking is in the last couple of years, through our town manager, he created a Health and Human Service Commission. And part of that commission is something like this, helping with these kind of issues, whether it's through counseling or, or there's other ways. There's a lot of resources that the town has. And I just want to make sure that when you get on your committee, and I know you got a couple folks out here, that they're able to use this resource to help folks, because we're trying to become a very acceptable, welcoming town. We're America's hometown, and we want to be that. We want to be, a very welcome and acceptable town.
Absolutely.
So that's why this is so important, and.
Well, and I'll be honest, having been to my first No Place for Hate meeting, I didn't know what the experience was going to be like, and that's why I kept going back, because that is the feeling in that room. That is the feeling that the committee and the different community members that are in that room provide. So it's happening, and I think that's why I want to be a part of it.
Yeah. Well, I can just say, I have zero tolerance for ignorance, and that's why this committee is very important, so.
I love
anyway,
that.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Mr. Golden?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for being here, Megan. I would echo Mr. Bletzer's gratitude for you stepping up. Assuming you're voted in tonight, without much competition, I think that's a pretty solid chance. What would be your number one priority when you join the group?
I'm really excited to bring some of the skills and some of the, marketing is my thing. I'm really excited to kind of bring some of my expertise that I've used in some of the other organizations and programs that I've done to No Place for Hate, and really help get our name out there and really bring No Place to Hate to the town of Plymouth. So it took me a long time to learn about who we are and how can we get out there, and how can we bring more community members into our organization or into our events, right? How can we reach maybe the younger kids that need that support, or the younger generations, or maybe someone that may not have heard about who we are, may not think that they're welcome, right? So that's really my personal goal for just to outreach.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Canty?
So I'll ask you a similar question to I asked Mr. O'Keefe earlier. But aside from what you just said, in response to Mr. Golden's question, you have gone to a number of their meetings. So is there anything that the No Place for Hate Committee is doing, if you are to be appointed, that they're doing that you would like to see them stop doing? Or is there anything that you, if you were appointed, that you'd like to see them doing that they're not doing, again, except for what you just mentioned?
I'd like to continue to see us, and I think my thought goes back to continuing to outreach, right? How do we, and I know this conversation has come up, right? How do we continue to expand, or, if there is something we're talking about, or an event, or kind of broaden our reach, right? That would really be what I would kind of hang my hat on, right? And whether it's the approach that we're taking, or, and again, I'm super new, so I could be speaking to something that's already happening, but maybe it's approach, maybe it's audience, maybe it's location, maybe it's content, whatever that might be, a refresh, or audiences that we're missing. Maybe it's kind of taking a look at things through a different lens. I think that is where I would start.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, wish of the board?
Make a motion to appoint Ms. Nutzling to one of the 3-year terms.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Canty, second by Mr. Blitzer. Discussion. Seeing none, Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Canty?
Yes.
Mr. Blitzer?
Yes.
Mr. Golden?
Yes.
And myself, yes, unanimous. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Plymouth Training Green update, Nick Fayella, welcome.
Good evening. Nick Fiala, Parks and Forestry Superintendent. Thank you all for your time. I'm here tonight with Samantha Stewart from SLR. She's participating via Zoom. She actually drove 3 hours to be here for the Historic Committee last week, and after I realized it was 3 hours, I said, Select Board does have a Zoom option, so I think she was pleased with that. We're here tonight to present some proposed upgrades to the Plymouth Training Green. As I'm sure most of you know, the Plymouth Training Green was designed by the famous Frederick Law Olmsted, a very famous landscape architect that did some big parks, the Training Green, but also the Central Park, New York City, and plenty of other parks that he's famous for. So with that said, we're not looking to really change any of the design components of the park. We're really just looking to enhance them, but also bring ADA compliancy by widening some of the walkways, making sure the slopes are appropriate, and resetting steps to AAB standards, add some lighting to accent the monument as well as the flagpole and some of the pathways to make it safer, add irrigation, and more so just improvements to make it safer and a nicer park. The walkways are in horrendous condition, which I'm sure most of you have seen. With that, though, I will, again, introduce Samantha, and she can kind of go into a little more detail, and then after her presentation, we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Welcome.
Hi, everyone. So I am a associate landscape architect with SLR. Do you guys have the slides up? I'm just seeing myself twice on the screen.
Yep, we're at slide 1. I don't know if there's a...
Great. Yeah, so you could proceed on to the next slide, please.
Oh, I can do that. Okay.
So our first main objective, as Nick mentioned, is accessibility. So with that, our number one priority is to make sure that we have accessible routes throughout the park. So that being said, we want to make sure those routes are 4.9% slope or less. So it's a bit difficult to see on this plan, but that dark gray hatch throughout the paths is representing that ADA accessible route.
I can point them out.
So looking at the orange arrows on Pleasant Street, those entrances are the beginning of the ADA route. It'll go laterally across, down diagonally to the monument, and then also those lateral paths as well to the top of those steps. Obviously, the steps there are not included in the ADA accessible route. Also, we plan to widen all paths to be 5 feet wide. And then we also plan to widen the landings at the top of the 3 staircases as well. So those are a nice, safe, wide landing at the top of those. Also, at the North Green Street and the South Green Street entrances, we plan to add detectable warning pavers as well as a ADA drop ramp. Since those you can see on the photos on the right are just existing curbs, so that would make those entrances accessible. We also plan to include new white painted crosswalks to get visitors safely across those streets. For the Pleasant Street entrance, which is in the center at the bottom of the plan, we plan to keep that entrance as is. The only change is that we are going to use a new detectable warning paver that will be cast iron that you can see in that bottom right-hand photo and have those all 3 match that. Next slide. The next objective is to reset the stairs and curbs. So for the 3 existing stairways, we plan to reset the treads so that they are all level and at 6 inches each for the height. We also plan to include new ADA handrails that will be brought up to the AAB standards. As you can see on that 3rd photo on the right, that shows the Sandwich Street entrance. There is currently an existing handrail there. We do plan to make these new handrails match in like or in kind to that handrail, but we want to remove that central handrail since it is not up to the regulations of AAB and have them be on either side instead. And those handrails would include a 1-foot flat top extension on the top, as well as 1 foot of flat handrail on the bottom as well. And then as far as the granite curbs, you could see with the red squares on the plan, those are the two areas along the Sandwich Street path where you can see the photos on the right. The curbs are exposed there, so we plan to reset those granite curbs. Next slide. The next goal is lighting.
one
So we
second,
want to
please.
provide a nice, safe route throughout the park using light poles. So we are proposing 6 light pole locations that you can see with the yellow circles throughout the park. So these are concentrated on those same ADA accessible routes, and then also an additional one to the north along Sandwich Street entrance right there. Those are going to be the same Plymouth Lumca fixture that is going to be consistent throughout the park with the town. And we also plan to provide uplighting, 4 uplights at the monument, as well as 2 uplights at the flagpole. Next slide. So this slide is showing a perspective from Sandwich Street. So this is showing what those Plymouth fixtures would look like in the park if you are coming up to that entrance. Also in this perspective, you can see at the stairway, this is just showing what those 2 new handrails would look like at the stairs. Next slide. We also plan to create some updates for the existing amenities. So we do have someone that is donating 4 new benches that are going to match existing, and those are going to be placed in the same locations as the existing benches. So you can see those with the blue squares. So 2 up north and then 2 along Pleasant Street. And those are also going to have new concrete pads. We also are going to provide a new replacement trash receptacle that's going to match existing. We are suggesting that that is going to be located on the right-hand side of the Pleasant Street entrance, which is that purple square right there. Just right now it is kind of very central to that entrance, and it is kind of, taking away from the beautiful monument view. And then lastly, we're going to be replacing the dog waste station with a new one, and that's going to be in the same location shown in the green square. Next slide. And then lastly is irrigation. So we are planning to fully irrigate the park. This is going to be spray irrigation. We have a irrigation specialist here at SLR who is working on this. We are planning to fully irrigate the lawn minus, avoiding the drip lines of the trees as well as the paths. There are just a couple things to mention. First being that there's going to be a irrigation controller. You can see a photo of it on the right-hand side. It's going to be 30 to 36 inches tall. And then there's also going to be an irrigation backflow preventer cage. So that cage is going to just prevent any vandalism for those pieces of equipment. And that's going to be located, if you see the red square at the bottom of the plan, it's going to be on the left side of that path opposite of the location of the trash receptacle. So with that, we plan to provide some shrubbery on either side to allow some screening to block views to those, or take away from the views of those equipment, and also keep the symmetry by having the shrubs on either side there. So those are all the updates we have to share. Do you guys have any questions?
Questions for Ms. Stewart? John?
Yes,
And then David?
what are the black, kind of like wavy lines that go over the pathways up there? Is that showing topography of the various heights of the grass?
So those are the updated contours. So this is a combined layout and grading plan.
Combined layout and what plan?
Grading plan.
Grading plan.
So this just shows that we had to tweak some of the existing contour lines in order to make some of the paths ADA accessible.
Okay. So ADA accessible will begin on the side with the red boxes on that slide. And the individuals won't be able to go out to the main street. They have to also exit from that side also, correct, on Pleasant Street? Or will
Yes, they
be-
would, yes. Just because there would be the other three entrances, the north ones on North Green Street and South Green Street, plus the Sandwich Street entrances, those all have staircases. So unless we were to implement some sort of ramp, it would not be ADA accessible.
Right. Okay. What's the overall square footage of the site? Is it over an acre?
Nick, do you know that?
I don't have the square footage. No, I have it on my desk, but I didn't,
All right.
of course.
All right, no problem, thank you.
Dave?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Samantha, thank you for your presentation. Nick, thank you for being here. Nick, I'm going to direct this towards you. Are you coordinating at all with David Gould or Mike Cahill? They have some significant projects that are going on not too far from here. I know David's particularly jazzed up about creating a list of preferred amenities so that we have some continuity of, things like pavers and the I don't know what you call them, the detectable warning pavers. He's looking at like standardizing some of that stuff throughout his projects. So if you're not coordinating with him, that's okay, but I think you should.
Okay, yeah, I work with David Gould a lot, sorry, the name's Dave Golden, Gould. A lot, on a lot of projects. I have not yet really had a full discussion with him on this project, but I certainly will. Thank you.
I could also jump in on that question a little bit. I am working on the Jenny Gristmill project with David Gould, and we are specifying the same detectable warning cast iron pavers as for Jenny as well.
Perfect, thank you, Samantha. If we could just run some of the other amenities by him, I think that would be great.
Sure.
Mr. Blitzer?
Yeah, hi, thank you, either one, Nick or Sarah, Samantha. With the irrigation, I'm very excited about that, so it keeps that grass looking pristine. What about, are you going to be able to put any flowering bushes or plantings to beautify the area at all?
So we're not looking to change.
No.
We're minimal changes on any of the design, just out of respect for the Frederick Law Olmsted.
For the design?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And we did, again, we were at Historic Commission last week and
They
went
didn't
through.
want that.
We've made some tweaks since then. Samantha, I'm sure, had a very busy weekend because we were just there Wednesday. But, and as a group, we kind of decided, even the shrubs we want to put that are going to surround the backflow and the irrigation control, even those are going to be inspired by work that Frederick Law Olmsted has done in other parks. We're going to try to use shrubs that he would have chosen just to keep it.
Okay. So it's not going to be like a Brewster Garden with those beautiful, I see.
It'll be beautiful, but
I see
it will be
Ginny
different.
out there, so. It looks nice to the mums out front brightened up that area, and, but I understand, I respect that design. So it's going to be beautiful. This is something that's a long time coming, so I know all the neighbors in that area are very excited about this. And
Definitely,
I've gotten
they've
a
been
lot
very
of-
supportive.
I've gotten a lot of calls on it, so that's great, thank you.
Thank you. I should mention that we don't yet have funding in place for construction, but that's going to be a capital request for the Parks and Forestry.
Thank you. Mr. Canty?
So is that going to be in the April town meeting then?
Yes, sir.
Do you have a number in mind?
We do have a number, but it's very early, so I don't know. But we're looking around 700,000.
Okay. And if it were approved in the April town meeting, do you have a timeline in mind?
We would look to put it out to bid as soon as possible.
Okay.
Yeah, it's nice going through the whole, the Historic Commission and you folks and everything at this point for the design, so once funding is in place, we can just go for the gold.
And do you have an idea of how long, once the bid is received and accepted, you would we would have completion?
I'm going to look to Samantha for that. Would you happen to know how long a project of this?
I think, I mean, it's also, of course, weather dependent. If we can get, bidding started, end of this year, January, I'm assuming maybe springtime would be construction, so maybe early summer. That is just a estimate.
That's if we put it out to bid in January?
That's if funds became available earlier than
Than the-
town meeting.
right.
But
Which won't
if we got the funds in July, I think we would look to start and hope to wrap things up by the winter. That would be the
Okay,
goal.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Mahoney?
Nick, how was the public outreach process? You mentioned last week going to historical. What about precinct 3? Mr. Sirico and, the rest of the group in the precinct where it all began,
Right.
which I'm also fortunate enough to be a member of, or a resident of. But I appreciate, before you answer that question, I certainly appreciate the respect to the original design by Mr. Olmsted and making the changes as minimal as possible, but still, Mr. Sirico and Mr. Weber, I think last Thursday night came in and had a few words with the Community Preservation Committee on this upcoming project, and it's just still difficult to me to talk about the origins of this property and what they represent to the community with respect to veterans, and then, people, it's unfortunate I think to a certain extent, it has become a de facto dog park, where people, they walk their dogs out there, and we have to account for that, and that's an unfortunate side of this.
Yeah, we see that in a lot of our parks, unfortunately. It is nice to have somewhere for the dogs to play, which is why I'm building a dog park. But, yeah, we have that issue in most of our parks. And we will provide the dog bag dispenser in hopes to encourage folks to clean up after their dogs. And as far as the public outreach to Precinct 3, we haven't yet gotten there, but of course, that's very important to us to take into consideration. I know that Mr. Weber was instrumental in kind of moving this along, or he was in favor of kind of getting this design going, and I've had some just casual conversation with him, but it would be nice to have a formal conversation with that precinct and hear them out on their input, because this is where it all began.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, motion to approve the upgrades.
Well, what is, if it's going to be a capital request in the spring, what are we voting on today exactly?
Nick wanted to come in more as an informational presentation, so that when it is a capital request, that this isn't a surprise to the board. So there's no formal motion that needs to be made then.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Samantha.
Thank you.
Anyone wishing to speak on the public comment? Welcome.
Thanks, guys.
Nick, could you pass that board? Can we look at that for a few minutes? Huh? Oh, the whole thing's in the back.
You want to look at a 6x10?
Yeah.
Jerry Sirico, Precinct 3,
What that
where it
time?
all began. I echo the words of Mr. Weber. I'm Vice Chair of the precinct. I am here to not fill Mr. Weber's shoes, because I could never do that when I look at the size of his feet. Just a few notes on the green. 2011, town came, I was chairman of the precinct. The town came to me, the town leaders. He said, we will sponsor an article for $10,000 if Precinct 3 can raise another 10 to rehab the monument. Excuse me, we raised that money in record time, no problem. It's a passion of ours. We are a very lucky precinct. We've accomplished a lot of things, not just on our own, but through the help of the town boards, town managers, the selectmen. We're not taking all the credit, but we have the initiative to do it. And we thank you, people. And we really thank you for this. This was talked about, this project was talked about us through the community preservation. We filed the application for it, which didn't get in time or something. Something happened, but now we have filed another one to help carry this project on. The big thing, when I was chairman of the precinct and we raised that $10,000, the big thing that struck me about the green was that it's real. Forefathers Monument is real. Nothing against the Mayflower, nothing against the plantation. They're all beautiful places, good attractions. They're not real. They're recreations. Green's real. When I undertook the project, when the precinct undertook the project in 2011, a girl came up to me by the name of Karen Goldstein. She lived on Jefferson Street. She was a historian at Bridgewater State College. She did quite a bit of work for me. I have a timeline on the green. I won't read the whole thing, but I will get it to you guys if you want to see it. I just want to highlight a couple things. 1711, the town officially designated the training green. That's less than 100 years from 1620. The green used to go to South Street. People don't know that. It was sold off. Anyway, it was sold off in the 1800s, and part of that money went to widows who had lost husbands in the various wars that we were in. But it did extend over to South Street. From the talk that I heard, I grew up with the green. My father was a park superintendent. The talk that I heard, I never took out a tape measure, a ruler or anything, but the talk that I heard is that it's 1 acre. But I don't know that for sure. I just hope, it's a wonderful plan. Precinct 3 will love this. I can speak for them on that. I just hope the walks and Mr. Olmsted's work stays relatively as it can, as Mr. Honey mentioned. Mr. Honey was there when we dedicated the monument. We had the monument rehabbed in 13 years ago. Mr. Mahoney was there. I bought him 2 jelly donuts. I'm still waiting to get repaid. I know if Mr. Quintal was there, I at least would have got a cabbage and a carrot, but. The green, years ago, just a brief history, if I'm getting too long-winded, let me know. A little brief history, years ago, there was flag raisers in the town that worked at the different parks. South Street Park, Veterans Field, Seavers Field, the Green, Stevens Field. They would raise the flags. They received a stipend, I think, of $5 a month. Well, back then when my father was in charge, there was no ball playing on the green. There was even little signs. And my father was a great sports advocate. He just didn't want, the town just didn't want people playing on the green. It's a memorial. And one time he happened to drive by, and yours truly, as a young boy, was playing ball on the green with some other kids. So my father said, you now have the job of taking the flag down and putting it up when the person that does it can't do it. That's a big flag. And he told me, don't let it touch the ground. I was over there in windstorms, rainstorms, everything, taking that flag down. I'm glad to hear that the flagpole will be lighted. I'm glad to hear that. And that's about all I have. We're looking forward to this project. We are sponsoring another, in the process of sponsoring another community preservation article to help out with this. And we'll stay in touch with everybody. and we thank you for your support. And I.
Ginny Davis, Precinct 4. I'm also very excited about this project and thank the Select Board for supporting it, and the town manager, and it will go forward, I'm sure. And I'm also attached to it way back when my grandfather, Jeffrey Perrier, and my aunt, who was a young woman at the time, they also were responsible for taking the flag down every day and putting it up in the morning. And if my grandfather couldn't do it, my aunt had to do it. So in all kinds of weather. And at times, I lived on Washington Street, 12 Washington Street, when my home was blown up on Main Street Extension. For 6 months, I lived there with all the family in this little house. So I would walk to school, down Washington Street, across the green to Nathaniel Morton. That was a long, long time ago. The other thing I wanted to ask you about was the vote to execute a 5-year license agreement with the American Cruise Line. Does that mean that this was the vote, or there's a discussion, or, I always read those after you have, voted, but I'm just curious.
Okay, we pull that because it didn't go before the Harbor Committee, so we're going to run it by them first, and then we're going to vote it.
Okay, thank you. Because just on that note, too, it looks like a great idea. The thing that upsets me about it, and I think it's set by whoever on the boat sets what the cruise people are going to do, the people, they're more elderly. They usually get on a bus, and they go to Mass Maritime, or they go to Plymouth Plantation. I don't know. I know you have to, somehow we could work with the coordinators of the people that plan things to get the people to come at least have lunch. We know they always go back to eat on their $7,000 a week cruise. They're not going to eat in town. So if we could encourage them to have more things that take place right in our wonderful town with our restaurants. That's all. Thank you.
Steve Lyden, Precinct 17. Recently, I live in a neighborhood, there's probably 6, 7 streets, and the sidewalks are all overgrown. And last week, the DPW came in and cleared the whole sidewalk, so now they're accessible to everyone. They did a great job, and I just want to make sure that you people know that the neighbors do appreciate all the work that they did. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Pass it on. Anyone else wishing to speak under public comment? Chris, is there anyone online that you know of? Okay. Mr. Brandisi, Town
Sure.
Manager's Report, Dirk.
Yes, I have a few updates for the board this evening. First and foremost, next Thursday, November 7th, we will be having an open house at Station 2 to invite folks from the public to come in to look at the new station. Although it opened officially a little less than 12 months ago, this is the first opportunity we have to showcase all the renovations to Station 2. The open house will take place next week from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. As far as other events that are taking place, tomorrow evening at the Stonebridge Club, there will be another listening session for the master plan. And then on Halloween, here right on Court Street and Main Street, Halloween on Main will take place. As we all know, that's organized by the Chamber of Commerce. So this will allow trick-or-treating for families and kids to come down to the businesses on Court Street and go trick-or-treating. This will be the 3rd year Town Hall has participated in the trick-or-treating event. So the last couple of years, we've had children come throughout the different offices here, and we've been giving out candy for that. I just want to let folks know, though, that the street on Court Street is going to be shut down starting at 2 p.m. And we are currently administering early voting. So those folks that want to participate in early voting, just know the street will be closed by the police department at 2 p.m., so try to get here prior to that. Speaking of early voting, yesterday we had 650 folks early vote. We had another 850 folks early vote today. So far, we have a total of almost 6,000 individuals who have early voted. That'll take place until the end of this week, November 1st. Mail-in voting continues to move forward. We've already received 12,000 mail-in votes. So between mail-in voting and early voting, we have approximately 18,000 votes that we have to advance process. Advanced processing is now taking place over at the courtroom. So folks that are interested in watching the clerk's office process those mail-in votes and those early votes, you're more than welcome to witness that over at the courtroom. And that takes place from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And then just as a reminder, next week will not be in session because it's Election Day, November 5th. Polls will open at 7 a.m. and will close at 8 p.m. I'd like to congratulate the school department for their efforts in raising $75,000 for pediatric cancer. This is the Go for Gold fundraiser that they participate in. And again, $75,000 was raised through this program, so congratulations to them. And then I'd like to mention that over here on Allerton Street, Seaver Street and Seaver Place, they will, starting next Monday, they will mill those roads, and then the following week, they'll pave those roads. So that project, as you know, that was a long project with replacing the sidewalks and the curbing through the summer months. So once we finish the final mill and pave, that project will finally be complete. And then before I end this evening, I wanted to mention a program that the town started a little over a year ago. It's called Plymouth Protected Places. So this is a program that was started after listening to many business owners in the downtown area who have stated that many of their employees at night, you know, when it's dark, felt unsafe walking to their cars, walking to the parking garage, for example. And then at the same period, you know, we were getting, a lot of our businesses were getting tagged with graffiti and various types of vandalism. So we started this effort. It's being led by Joe Young, our IT director, to try to encourage businesses in the downtown area to sign up for Plymouth Protected Places. And what does that mean? It is a program where we are encouraging businesses to register their surveillance cameras to this network. If they don't have surveillance cameras, we have the funds available to purchase surveillance cameras. And so we believe after we create this network of surveillance cameras in the downtown area, it'll give folks a feeling of being safe. Those folks who want to come downtown and be a part of wrongdoing, hopefully they'll understand that they're being watched on a regular basis, and it'll mitigate, you know, some of those crimes and the violence, in particular some of the violence that we've seen this past weekend. So I wanted to highlight this program. Right now, we've only had 10 businesses sign up. We're going to push this out again in the next couple days with our communications coordinator to try to encourage others to sign up for this program. Pending any questions, that's all I have this evening.
Any questions or comments with Derek? Mr.
I
Blutzer?
have one question. Derek, the town-owned cameras that we have that we found weren't being used, are we using those now?
So we're working with the chief
Right.
and others who are managing those cameras and trying to get them back online.
And what about the PGDC, the garage? There's cameras, I believe, in there.
I don't know if those ones are active. I know that there are some parking lot cameras that are not active
Right.
that need to be turned back on.
Right. So, and that's something we can get grant money to if we wanted to add in some of our parking lots?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
good,
right,
good.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah, safety, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I just want to say that the building looks good. I went up to floor 3 today, and David was, what floor are you on, first floor? Second floor? Yeah, but yeah, he's, some good decorations in the building. Everybody's done a really good job, so.
Yeah, they really enjoy it.
I know it was a little off the sketch of the town manager's report.
No, but they really enjoy it. Again,
Yeah.
we started this is the third year doing this, and a lot of, you can see, because there's a competition on Halloween, the Human Resource Department and others organize this event, and we have 3 judges come in, they'll look at all the different offices, and some office will get an award for the best, what do they call that? Managed office, I guess, in Town Hall, decorated.
All righty. We'll move on to Select Board discussion, new business. Mr. Golden and Mr. Blitzer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. O'Keefe, for teeing me up earlier today. I recently had a conversation with the chair of the Cedarville Steering Committee, and they are interested in addressing some of the traffic issues that Mr. O'Keefe mentioned and that you, Mr. Chairman, discussed as well. Their specific concerns are about the stretch of Route 3A from Hedges Pond Road to Herring Pond Road. And I'd like for us to start to support their efforts to try to get the state to do something down there. So Derek, for you, is it possible, so part of their concern is that the Cape Cod Bridge construction may have unanticipated impact to especially the South Plymouth area. Is it possible for you or someone on this board or someone else at your discretion in Town Hall to get involved in the discussions about the bridge? And to the extent that you may already be involved, can we make sure you have a significant role in the decision-making process? And how can we support that?
Sure. Well, I can say, so we'll follow up with Bill Coyle, our DPW director. I can say that the last time we've had active conversations relative to that bridge project was the summer of '22. I was at a Congressman, I think it was Senator Markey's office with Rep. Muratori at the time, and during that conversation, we talked about those unintended consequences from the bridge project and the spillover that it may create in South Plymouth. So we need to follow up on that, to your point, and we'll certainly do that.
Thank you for that. And if there's anything that I can do to be helpful with the chairman's permission, I'm happy to back you up in that
Thank you.
regard. And then can we also just get the DPW in at some point in time to talk about, just give us an update on where things stand with traffic studies and design down in that area?
Down in Cedarville?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
I think they have all the designs. I think it's just the big questions of money.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, hey, Derek, earlier this summer, I had an interaction with I was talking with some tourists, a couple of families, and while I was conversing with them, there was a mental health, a homeless person that I believe had some mental health issues. So I addressed it with Health and Human Service Commissioner Michelle, and we, so I started to get involved in this, how to solve, help with this problem. It's a problem that we're starting to get more and more of these homeless folks, and so we went up, we met with Father Bills, I actually toured the Quincy facility. I also talked with Peggy Hall, who's the local, and found out the work they're doing here in Plymouth. It's just amazing what's going on. They've identified, the stats are, we have like 30-something homeless people that on the streets in the winter, sleeping on the streets, and so they're working on providing resources, and eventually, hopefully, we're going to get some more help too down here to help these folks. A lot of them, if it's not addiction, it's mental health or both. So, in the meantime, I brought to my attention this weekend. There's a gentleman in the downtown area that has been disrupting some businesses, and it's been going on for quite a while, I guess, and, you know, the police, it's hard for them to do things, they, you know, you can't, it's hard to make arrests, it's, you know, they're not really doing anything illegal, but the businesses are getting really frustrated with this. I actually, Sunday, I had coffee downtown, and I saw the person they're talking about. And he was sitting in a business, and I came back an hour and a half later, I walked by, he was still sitting in there. And so anyway, my concerns are, if we, and they're human beings, and they needed to be treated with respect to, we need to get them some help. We need to get them off the street and maybe some mental health. And I know we've had a presentation a couple of weeks ago, a couple of meetings ago, with the mental health vans. And there's all, between the veterans, between Health and Human Services, Father Bill's, the recovery centers, we have so much, there's so much help in Plymouth. So I was gonna ask you if you could maybe start, I'd like to put together the homeless task force. If that's something you think that we could do, I think it's all part of the reason why you created the Health and Human Services, you know, is to actually do something like this. I've talked to some people about it. I was at the Legion today for a veterans, there was the HERO Act presentation by Secretary Santiago, and I mentioned it to a couple people there, and there's a lot of people who want to get involved in this, and I'd like to get involved too. So if it's something that we could, because we talk about revitalizing our downtown, it's very important. We're a tourist town too, and but we're also a caring town that, you know, and a lot of these people are residents. They're actually residents of Plymouth, believe it or not. They come from this area. So I would like to put this task force together to see if we can help this problem and try and, you know, get them the services they need, because we have the services. We just have to get them to the services. And we can't rely on our police to do it. It's you know, there's only so much they can do besides taking them to the hospital. And we don't want to, our hospital's already overburdened now with some of these things, but there's, and I'm sure they would get involved too. I'm sure BID would get involved in this task force too, but, so whatever you can do.
Yeah, so what I can do is, let me talk with Commissioner Brady and come back to the board with a couple recommendations and see what the board desires.
Any of the new business? Anything on the letters? Oh, did you have something, David?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. The community was rocked this past weekend by a senseless act of violence that resulted in the death of one of our neighbors. So I just wanted to take a moment, if the board would permit, for us to recognize the life of Brent Berkeley, and if the public would join us in a moment of silence for his loss. Thank you.
On that note, David, I happened to meet his father last night. His father came over to me, and we had a conversation and a long talk, and he said repeatedly that the community has been wonderful in reaching out, and the love that, you know, this town has shown his family. And I said I wouldn't expect anything less. This is a beautiful community, and we've proven time and time again that we're there for each other, even after our differences. It's okay to disagree sometime, but I'll tell you what, they were out to bat last night. I'll save that for another venue. This isn't the venue for that, but I did have the time to talk with him, and a nice gentleman, and he just couldn't stop thanking everybody. So, and on behalf of the town, I thank all the citizens in this community. really proud of everybody. I love being a part of this town. So, that being said, anything else on the new business? Letters? Old business? Well, I was out sick last week while I Zoomed in, but I would just like to touch, because I always do on town meeting after. I'd like to thank all the town meeting members and Mr. Trifiletti for town meeting, but I have to say that is one special one. I've probably gone to 40 some odd, at a thing without adding them all up, and I think the charter, I'm gonna call it a fiasco, because as I sit here as chairman of the Board of Selectmen, I still don't know what the vote was on that, and I was very confused. I don't think I was the only one. I tried to follow it, and I've been to a few. But that being said, it costs this town so much money to do these charter reviews and the people we put in charge to do what they do. And to be quite honest with you, I didn't follow it every week. I have enough on my plate, and that's what they elected to do, voted in to do. And it saddens me that it goes through that whole process, and at the end of the process, it's supposed to be for the better of this community, regardless of what you and I might think personally. But when you have it right out of the gate and you just vote a no for the whole thing, even things that, and I could be wrong, you're the attorney, to help me out here, even though you know that the vice chairman, for example, this is one that sticks in my head, shouldn't be voting at the precinct chairs, and you're told that it's illegal, and well, we're still gonna vote no. I mean, really? I'm gonna be honest, because I always am. And then there was a couple other little comments that people were making, at least I'm told, in case I missed them, I didn't turn around every time. And, the trust the select board and this and that. Let me tell you something. If there's a town meeting member out there that doesn't trust me, I want you to come in this meeting. And if you can't make a meeting, I'll meet you here. And if that doesn't work, you can stop by my work, because that's really low pool. It really is. So, on that note there, I hope the next one is much better. I don't think it could be any worse. And on that note, thank you, everybody that attended. Thank you. Any other old business? Okay, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you for watching. Have a great week.